All right, everybody in the store, if you're listening to me, we're up here by the stage. Shout out to Darkside Records for having us here. I'm Steve Credo. I do another wrestling podcast. This is Lanny Poffo, formerly The Genius, WWE superstar. Lanny, thanks for joining us. Welcome back to Poughkeepsie.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine, and I've got some beautiful, happy memories of Poughkeepsie and Hyde Park.
Awesome. So, guys, we're going to do a Q&A. So I want you guys, if you have questions, let us know. But I have a bunch of stuff. I'm going to talk to them, too, if you're afraid. Make sure you speak loud enough so we can hear you. But we're going to get going. But for those of you walking around the store and you do not know who this gentleman to my left is, he is the brother of WWE Hall of Famer, the Macho Man, Randy Savage, also formerly of the WWE. If you don't know, now you know. Lanny, you come from a family of wrestlers. Your dad was a wrestler, your brother was a wrestler, you were a wrestler. Can you tell us a little bit about being in the Poffo family, growing up where everybody was wrestling? Well, except for Mom, right?
Mom did not wrestle, but she nagged a lot. She was a nag. And she was Jewish. And believe it or not, if I was a girl, my name would have been Rebecca. But they missed by about a quarter of an inch, so. I don't know why I'm laughing. But anyway, actually our family was all about baseball. We had the baseball fever. And my brother, what's that?
He was minor league Cincinnati Reds, right?
Yes, actually in 1971.
Third base?
Close.
Shortstop.
Close. You got 9 positions. Keep trying.
I only got 6 more guesses.
Okay. In 1971, he was ignored by all the teams in the draft, and then he went to St. Louis. My father drove him to St. Louis while he slept in the back seat, and he tried out for the St. Louis Cardinals. There were about 500 free agents that were trying out for the team. They only signed one person. That was Randy Poffo. And take a guess. How much was his bonus?
$100, $200.
Okay, the closest was $100. His bonus was 0. And he was making $500 a month. So my father said to him, even in 1971, $500 a month is not a lot of money, wouldn't you agree? So he says, don't worry, I will subsidize you. You need money, just tell me. Just, don't be. But here's something about Randy you didn't know. He was a card shark. And he played cards with the bonus babies. The $30,000 bonus, $50,000 bonus, $100,000 bonus babies. A fool and his money are soon parted. And I should know, he could have me naked in like 20 seconds playing cards. He was his nickname for me when we played cards was MB. Does anybody take a guess what that means?
Money bag?
Minute brain. But that's the stuff I miss about him, because he had such a great personality. He could call you minute brain and make you like him. It's like, and now that he's gone it'll be 7 years on May the 20th. And it was the minute brain things that make me miss him the most, because there was like a little vinegar in his greens, gives them flavor.
So Lenny, with your family, was it a given that you had to be a pro wrestler growing up under your father and your brother? Like, everybody's wrestling. Is this just what you're going to do, family business kind of thing?
Well, in this comic book, I explain what happened. We went to visit him in Sarasota, Florida, when he was playing for the St. Louis Cardinals organization in Rookie League. Somebody on his team was named Jerry Mumphrey. He had an afro about that big. He was 6'3", legs up to here. Nicest guy you ever met. But he ran the 100-yard dash in 9.6 seconds, which is not a world record, but it's a high school record, okay? And I'm watching this guy play, and I said, if the ball bounces twice, he's safe. That's not fair. It's not fair. You know, because I ran just as hard. I just got there later, you know. So I said to myself, I didn't say it to anybody else, but I'm going to tell you, I knew I wasn't as good as my brother in baseball or anything else for that matter except poetry. And I knew that Randy wasn't as good as Jerry Mumphrey. That was the real deal. And of course, if you look up Jerry Mumphrey, he's not in the Hall of Fame, but he had a 10-year major league career. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, played with the Yankees.
He did. He played for the Chicago Cubs, the Yankees. If you look at his career, he did very well for himself. And I knew Randy wasn't as good as him. You know why? Because everybody has blessings. No matter how hard it is to tell, you know, there's some things I can do, there's some things you can do. So, you know, a rose and a violet, they're not jealous of each other. They do their own thing until the season's over. Then they become fertilizer and help another flower grow. That's the way, but they're not jealous of each other. I knew I wasn't as good as Randy, and I knew that day that Jerry Mumphrey was a major leaguer, not Randy. And I was right, but I wouldn't tell Randy that. Randy wasted 5 years of his life in the minor leagues, trying and trying and trying and coming short. But baseball's loss is wrestling's gain. Does anybody not agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
He put the same work ethic that he failed in baseball in to succeed in wrestling. And he used to tell me stuff. I want to tell you what he told me. You better have the best match of your life every night, because it doesn't matter if you come from a big town or a small town. Those people pay money to see you. And if you don't give them the best show you can, you're nothing but a shoplifter or a pickpocket. Ooh, yeah. I said, whoa, that's pretty good.
Yeah. What about your dad too? The memories growing up with him wrestling. Is it just something you saw dad's doing, I'm going to do, we're going to do together, or is it just...
I wanted to be a wrestler because I knew I wasn't going to be a baseball player, and I didn't want to be a welfare recipient. Okay, you know, so, but the first job I ever had, I got good news and bad news. I was too skinny to book. You know what I mean? I looked like a tall, skinny guy with a bad complexion. And it didn't look like I was going to be a wrestler. I became a telemarketer. Now you laugh. I see you laughing at me. You scoffing and snickering. I see you doing it. But within 3 weeks, I was breaking company records. And within 6 months, they asked me to be the youngest supervisor they ever had in the company. So I said, well, okay. And I became a supervisor, and I became a sales manager. And then I used my love of poetry to motivate the crew. I said, that elusive little weaver, just as pretty as you please, with lots of exclamation points around parentheses. They wrap the names of Linda Gale and others just as great, who verify through thick and thin and put food on my plate. But even when my ups crash down, converting less than par, I've always been and shall remain a grateful SSR. And someday, if I toe the mark and run an honest race, I might look into the mirror at my verifying face. But till the day I make the grade, I'm proud to stay right here at the Sweepstakes Entry Center. Sorry, Pat Haynes isn't here. Thank you. I feel like George, Jeb Bush. Please clap, remember? Mr. Charisma, not.
Well, Lenny, with the first job, getting into WWE, I mean, there's a funny, unique story I think everybody would like to hear, to where, you could probably get the story better than I can, obviously, but Dr. David Schultz got fired. Can you get us into how you got into WWE?
Okay, we were wrestling in Memphis, and Dr. David Schultz, does anybody remember the, what was John Stossel interviewing Dr. David Schultz? He says, he asked him if wrestling was fake. And he said it like that. You know, like that. You know what?
landed him on his head, right?
So,
Pile driver?
so he says, no wrestling, he's a country boy, no wrestling and fight. That's why it's very difficult. That's why you can't do it. That's why that guy behind the camera can't do it. Boom! And he cuffed him. He broke his jaw, and or broke his eardrum, one of the two. And come on, boy, that's an open hand slap. And he hit him with the other hand. And then the guy sued him, and because of that, he tried to say that Vince put him up to it. And then he left and went to Memphis. Then they teamed up Dr. D. David Schultz and the Macho Man in Memphis. They did an interview where Dr. D. David Schultz was knocking Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan, and the WWF. And in the meantime, Macho Man was there, ooh, yeah, and Jimmy Hart got wind of it, got the video, gave it to the office in Connecticut, where they wanted to see what Dr. D. David Schultz said about Hulk Hogan and Vince, because they thought there was going to be some litigation. So while Vince is watching the video, he says, that Macho Man is fantastic. He's all over, ooh, yeah, he's like, and so they do it secretly because, you're robbing people's talent pools, okay? And it was Jimmy Hart. You know what? I love Jimmy Hart. What a nice man. And he's 74 years old. About 8 years ago, his daughter died. I know I'm going on and on, but what a nice person. And if it wasn't for Jimmy Hart, we wouldn't have gotten into Memphis. If it wasn't for Jimmy Hart, we wouldn't have got into the WWF, which is now WWE. And all he ever got for it is tired. I am tired of not giving credit where it's deserved. Jimmy Hart is the reason. Otherwise, you wouldn't be wearing a Macho Man shirt. He'd be the greatest wrestler you've never heard of. And there would be an empty seat right here, because I wouldn't be interesting enough for you to talk to. It's all, maybe you believe in God, maybe you don't. I don't know anybody who's died and come back. But whether you believe in coincidence or God or divine providence or not, I believe that God puts people in your life, and it's up to you to be receptive to these people. And does that make sense? You never know, especially when you look back. Where would I be without Jimmy Hart? Where would I be without the Macho Man? Because you know what he said? Randy, can you come in? We've got a big plan for you. Yeah, but got any room for my little brother? That was me. And they said, well, is he a heel or a baby face? Which means, is he a good guy or a bad guy? I said, well, let me ask him, are you a good guy or a bad guy? And I said, oh, good guy? He said, he's a baby face. So I said at the time, I don't care if they need me to take the jackets back to the dressing room. I believe that water will find its own level. Everything, the cream rises to the top. Oh, yeah.
I love the Macho Man impressions because it's coming from your bloodline. I found this funny in the car ride, but I was asking, Randy, I always hear how Macho Man talked, but how did Macho Man really talk in real life? And you can just do what you did.
I remember it was 1999. My parents were going to have their 50th wedding anniversary. He called me up like 2 in the morning with no regard for if I'm sleeping, because he didn't sleep a lot, He was always thinking. So the phone rings, and hello? He says, yeah, this is Randy. I said, no kidding. He said, here's the deal. We're going to have a party, a surprise party for our parents' 50th anniversary, and it's going to be huge. And you have got to write a poem for them. But don't make it long and boring, because you can be long and boring. So
that's what I thought was funny, because I figured maybe he had a regular voice, he's not like the Macho Man all the time, and he's just like, hey, he was always the Macho Man. That's I found just funny.
Believe it or not, when he first got into the ring, he was fantastic. I mean, but he was too skinny. Then he started working out, and nothing happened. So then, I guess he went to the drugstore, but we don't know. There's the stuff that's going to pump you up, pump you. It works. But I tried it for 5 months in 1989. All I got for it was acne vulgaris and testicular atrophy. But I'm proud to say my face is cleared up, and you're going to have to take my word for the rest of it, okay?
Now, Lanny, too, for people that may not know, you debuted in Poughkeepsie with your brother
1985.
At the Mid-Hudson Civic Center, which we all know, we all go to for all various wrestling events. But can you tell us about your debut coming to Poughkeepsie, and maybe even your brother's debut here as well?
I wrestled me and Pedro Morales against
Barry O. and J.A. Riz.
Yes, Barry O. and J.A. Riz. And I saw Barry O. not too long ago. He was the brother of Bob Orton Jr. And of course, the big star now is Randy Orton. And in my opinion, Bob Orton Jr. gave me my best matches because we clicked for some reason. He was actually much better than me, but he was able to, just like a good dancer can dance with a bad dancer, and if the bad dancer listens and lets the good dancer lead, you can have a nice dance and you would never know that that guy can't dance. So he took me from like a 6 to a 10, and then, but if I wrestled a 3, the match would be a 3. You see what I mean? Because I couldn't raise a 3 to a 6. That's not my gift. Sorry. But don't you want to hear the wedding poem?
I do. Let's hear it.
The anniversary poem, don't make it long and boring. Oh no. So I said, well, I just realized that this is not clean. So let's skip it.
Okay.
We're only going to do G-rated because some of the finest people in the world are in this room, and we don't use filthy, foul, profanity, do we? Okay, I just realized that I see all the halos out here, and I just knew that.
Join us at the bar later. We'll be able to get the full poem for you guys. Just a few drinks in.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is, how many New Yorkers does it take to change a light bulb? And by New Yorker, I mean New York City, not New York State, because everybody knows this is the lovely people, and the city is the horrible people.
How many does it take?
How many New Yorkers does it take to change a light bulb? None of your freaking business.
Just change the F word, but yeah, that's
I use a euphemism.
So tell us maybe more about your debut coming to Poughkeepsie, because they did a lot of shows here in the 80s and in the 90s, a lot of TV tapings. Do you have any memories of that too, with your brother, or just yourself too?
I was so nervous, I was so happy and excited, and then I went to Madison Square Garden, and I never dreamed I would wrestle there, and I made 23 appearances in Madison Square Garden, and then something incredible happened. I became the genius, and Hulk Hogan took a liking to me, and next thing you know, I'm on the main events against Hulk Hogan. So in 23 appearances in Madison Square Garden, I have been on 2 main events in Madison Square Garden. So I have selective amnesia. I don't want to remember the appearances. I want to remember those 2 main events. Is that okay?
That's perfect. We talked also earlier about the moonsault and Tiger Mask. Can you take us back, because there was some.
Well, everybody thought I invented the moonsault. That was when you get on the top rope and you do a backflip onto the opponent. I did not invent that. I invented it right after I saw Tiger Mask do it. And he's a Japanese star with a mask on, and you can look him up on YouTube. You see, it was Tiger Mask against Dynamite Kid. Fantastic match. Am I right or wrong? So I said, there's got to be a way I can steal some of these moves. And I'm a gymnast. I stole a lot of those moves. okay? Now let me talk about stealing for a moment. Okay, I remember I said Randy was a great wrestler, but he was skinny. Well, he started, now he's in a situation where he's got the body, he's got the wrestling. He's a little bit nervous about interviews. Oh no. Now, you don't believe me because Macho Man is the greatest interview you've ever heard. But before he became great, he wasn't. And he finally came to me, and Randy never came to me for anything with his hat in his hands. He came to tell me stuff, never to ask me anything. I'm the younger brother. Well, he said, "You're so good at interviews. Is there any way you can help me out?" I said, "Randy, I'll tell you what, you're doing fine. I don't think there's anything I can help you with." "Oh, I'm not doing fine. I got anxiety. I can't sleep. I can't breathe, and I don't feel the character." I said, "Well, let's steal somebody's character." So I said, since your name is Savage, and you look like a savage, and you wrestle like a savage, and you are a savage, what savage type of interview do you admire? And let's steal it. Is that a good thing to do? I think it's a cross between King Curtis Iakea, who knows that name? And Pampero Firpo, the wild bull of the Pampas, who knows that name? Well, you know everything. So I said, remember in 1967 and 68, we were in Hawaii, and they had like these, what do you call it on TV where the guy says, "You are watching NBC."
You call them a bunch of things, a little jingle or, a little sign-off tag.
There was a little jingle sign-on, sign-off thing in Hawaii where Pampero Firpo said, and don't forget, he's from Argentina, but he is of Armenian descent. So he had an accent like nobody else. And he spoke about 10 languages. "You are watching #1 station in Hawaii." Oh, yeah. I said, "Randy, let's see if you can read that line." "Oh, I don't know." I said, "Try it." "You are watching the #1 station in Hawaii." "Oh, yeah." I said, "That feels like money." All the hair on my arms. I said, "Do that again." "Why?" "It was fantastic. You are watching the #1 station in Hawaii." "Oh, yeah." I said, "Wow." So he spent the next 3 months in the bathroom mirror working on his interviews. I said, "Wow, this guy, he had such desire." I promise you, from that day, I'm going to say to 3 months later, he went from the worst interview in wrestling to the best. And here's the rest of the story. From that day that he was the greatest interview, that was 6 years before he even met Vince McMahon. So in other words, all of that time, the Macho Man was the greatest talent in wrestling, and you didn't know who he was because he was confined to Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, the Maritimes of Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island. I'm saying the big talent was in a small area. But when he met Vince McMahon knew this was the real deal. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, and it's a rhetorical question. It's got nothing to do with anything, but you're going to tell me what you already know. You've seen a million wrestlers, millions of wrestlers, and you can't remember any of them. You remember the Macho Man, don't you? Isn't that something?
That's a great story. I mean, I love it. We're all diving deep into the stuff that we just didn't know. But it is a Q&A. I do want to, if anybody has a question, please raise your hand like in class. So if you do, I can see you. We can call on you, so you don't just hear me talk nonstop. But if you have a question, just let us know. Any question now, or I'll just keep going? Ryan?
I remember at tapings at the Civic Center, you wrestled a match against the Hart Foundation. Did you have any idea about the potential of Bret Hart at that time?
I knew he was great, but I had no idea that they were going to break up the team and catapult Brett to the success that he enjoyed. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad that he did that, because you couldn't ask for a nicer person. The only nicer person I'm going to say was Owen Hart. And unfortunately, he had a horrible, Rebecca, I don't know if you realize this, but in 1999, Owen Hart was going to descend from the top of the Kemper Arena, like 55 feet in the air, and the snap broke, and he landed in the ring and died. And it couldn't have happened to a nicer, what a nice man, and it was just horrible. You know, it's like one of the worst things ever happened in wrestling. And I thought to myself, what's wrong with running down the aisle? The worst that can happen is you fall and skin your knee. But when you make a mistake up there, you pay down there. Wherever you think wrestling is real or not, gravity is real. And if you make a mistake high, you pay low. So, what a nice person. And then I was hoping maybe he died instantly, maybe he died on the way down. No, I found out. He never lost consciousness. He fought for his life, and the last hour of his life was in agony. You know, he was in shock, but he was aware. So what a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, any other memories to the Hart Foundation or the Hart family at all through the years?
Well, I was born in Calgary because my father was wrestling for Stu Hart, and my mother was pregnant with me at the same time that Stu Hart's wife, what's Stu Hart's wife's name? Helen Hart was pregnant with Ellie, who would go on to be the wife of Jim the Anvil Neidhart. So that's an odd story, but my father couldn't wait to leave because he was freezing to death, and they have to, in Canada, you have to stay in the hospital after you have a baby and everything. So when I was a month old, we all went to Amarillo, Texas, and I don't remember a thing of it, except that I'm a Canadian-born American citizen. So I don't know, I guess that would have been good for me as for not getting drafted into the war in Vietnam, okay? So at the time, that was hanging over your head like a matzo ball.
Sure, any other questions from anybody? We'll keep going.
I just want to, what's your opinion of the wrestling nowadays with the, I mean, you wrestled in an era where there were so many high-profile personalities and such great matches. I mean, the guys that are wrestling now just, I don't know, they more concerned about tattoos than they are matches. You know, I just think that it's kind of slacked down quite a bit.
Well, I hear what you're saying, I appreciate it, but when I was wrestling in the 80s, there were people that missed the days of the 70s and the 60s. You see what I mean? They thought they were the golden era, and we were the imposters. Now we are the golden era, and they're the imposters. I don't like to knock or criticize the wrestlers. They're busting their butts every night. The only thing I'm going to criticize is that we didn't have writers. They tell us what to say, and we said it from our hearts. And we had personalities like Rowdy Roddy Piper, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Macho Man Randy Savage. How are you going to write for those people better than they could do for themselves? See, they understood their character, right? Nobody helped me writing my poetry either. That was a part of who I am. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm saying that is real poetry, the good and the bad. So I think because the writers are telling them what to say, they sound like they're reading instead of being themselves. So, and they're making everybody cookie cutter. There's no differences, everybody's the same. But I don't really watch wrestling because I just don't. I've got a thing called Broadway HD, and I like to watch Les Miserables and Phantom of the Opera and Oklahoma, and to me that's big entertainment. And then when baseball season comes, I like to watch baseball.
Then watch Hamilton?
I haven't seen it, but it's not on Broadway HD. but when the time comes, I will watch it.
There you go. Guys, we'll get more questions from you too, but you mentioned Owen Hart on a sad note, but how about on a lighter note? Because he was also known as being one of the biggest practical jokers, ribs in wrestling. So a lot of jokes pulled backstage. Do you have any fun stories, or maybe not fun stories, or just the jokes the guys kind of used to pull on each other, or maybe stuff that you might have witnessed?
Okay, Owen Hart was a practical joker, but they were not cruel practical jokes. What I consider to be cruel is anything where I touch you or your stuff. Don't touch the person. My grandfather in Italian used to say, "Giacca di mani, giacca di ballani." You know what that means? No Italians here? The joke of a hand is the joke of a villain. As soon as this happens, you're off. Everybody's got their own don't touch zone. Okay, unless you're invited to touch the person, you shouldn't touch them. Or your stuff. So Owen Hart's ribs were practical jokes and funny ones. But some of these guys knew no boundaries. Well, we're on TV, so I won't name names. One of the girl wrestlers, who I was very dear friends with, went to one of those WWE reunions where she participated in some battle royal. She called me up crying on the phone and said that one of the wrestlers took a beer and poured the beer on top of her head. And she was very upset because it happened in front of the boys, and she was humiliated. And I said, listen, if what happened in front of the boys happened in front of the boys, I'd say the person pouring the beer is the one that was humiliated. And you just got wet. So I think the best thing you can do is wash your hair and act like it never happened, because they just made a fool out of themselves and you didn't. So I don't like ribs. I don't like practical jokes. I like good citizens. Some of these guys were up to no good every day. And they even got to the point where there was a trend of using people's suitcases for toilets. And when I got fired the first time, I came back in about 6 months and Randy warned me, yeah, there's a lot of things going on, so you better watch your stuff. So I hid my cap and gown so well that I could not find it myself. And you know, nobody ever used my suitcase as a toilet, and I always wondered why. Well, let me ask you a question. Would you use my suitcase as a toilet knowing that you had to talk to the macho man? Ooh, no, what'd you do to my little brother?
Perfect, that was good. Now, in your Hall of Fame speech for your brother, you mentioned stuff about, you know, the kind of animosity that Hulk Hogan had with Macho Man, life's too short kind of thing to, you know, let go of those grudges. Can you tell us a little bit about how the Mega Powers exploded and how it was kind of almost real life in a way?
No, I won't. But I'll tell you this.
Sure.
I won't because we're on TV and I don't know where it's going. I won't because I love Randy and Hulk. I won't because I hate when there is no love. You see what I mean? We make a mountain out of a molehill. Please let's stop doing that. Life is too short for that. Evidently, something happened involving maybe Elizabeth or Hulk or, you know what? In the last month of Randy's life, he had this blank you list a mile long, and he went around to everybody on that list, apologizing and breaking bread, and establishing a friendship and everything. And I'm glad that Randy and Hulk got together at the end, because Hulk is one of the finest people I've ever met. I'd be nothing without him, trust me. You know, how many people saw the match on NBC? You know what? Hulk didn't wrestle everybody. He wrestled who he wanted to wrestle. And he chose me. For one brief shining moment, he chose me. I cannot have a short memory about him. I love that man because of what he did for me. He has nothing to prove to me, and he has nothing to, you know, what have you done for me lately? You'll never hear those words out of my mouth. On the other hand, Macho Man, where would I be without him? For all I know, it was because of Randy and Hulk that I got the break that I did. This is the difference between subjective and objective. Subjective is a matter of opinion. Objective is, I run the 100-yard dash in 9.6, I'm faster than you, so what? See what I mean? It's like swimming and diving. In diving, the judge doesn't love you, gives you a bad score, you lose. In swimming, doesn't matter if I love you, you touch the thing first, you win. Even if I hate you, you win. True? So let's keep all this bad blood out of it. You know, Elizabeth's gone, Macho Man's gone, Hulk and I are still here, and we love each other. And we're not gonna spend another negative moment. I hate when there's no love.
There you go. Now I'm looking at a picture of you. You know this one.
Yeah.
I'll show everybody in a second, but you have blonde hair. I mean, we got this picture. This picture. This goes back to
everybody come up and pass it around. You come up and pass it around.
This so this photo. What's the story behind it? Basically, you dyed your hair blonde. What was going on? Why did you dye your hair blonde? Because we didn't see this. This never came to fruition, right?
Randy went to the WCW, and he says, "I got an idea for you." I said, "What do I have to do?" He says, "Start working out harder, get a tan, bleach your hair blonde. You're going to be the next Gorgeous George." Okay? So he got me a contract. I waited for the phone call that never happened. 4 years later, I'm still under contract. My hair is still blonde. But I'll tell you what, it wouldn't have gotten over. Because you know how good Ric Flair looked with his blonde hair? I look like the scarecrow of the Wizard of Oz. You know, like nasty hair, and it was falling out. It was bad. It was not gorgeous. It was, I wouldn't have been a good Gorgeous George because you got to really stay on top of that hair. And my hair was terrible for that.
All right. Now, we were talking about some funny stories last night. I mean, some guys you're always on the road with, you're not going to get along with everybody, not to throw anybody under the bus, but some guys, you wrestle them all the time. Maybe more or less they don't wash their outfits as often. Did you have any encounters with just guys to where they should hit the laundromat at least once a week?
The name Bam Bam Bigelow springs to mind. I was his little bitch. So he was leaping Lanny against Bam Bam. This is before I got a break. It was Lanny and Bam Bam, every 20 cities in a row. He never thanked me. He was just a jerk. He never washed his stuff. He got me in a leg scissors, and I promise you, it was a combination of ammonia and cat urine. It was like, and I was starting to get dizzy, and I started doubting my career choices. I said, "There's got to be. I hate this man."
Another funny story. Just want to kind of go a little bit all over, but and if you guys have a question, let me know. We'll get some questions in a minute. But one other story I found interesting because it was a time that I saw this live on TV. It was where the Macho Man was bit by a live cobra from Jake the Snake, and it was life altering. Basically, as you're a little kid watching this on TV, you've never seen a snake bite anybody. And can you tell us how this came about? I mean, I know Macho Man came to you for advice, and I think the rest.
We were three in the car. Randy and Elizabeth in the front seat. Randy driving, Elizabeth in the shotgun. I'm in the back seat. They were arguing. I'm pretending to be sleeping. You know, I got enough trouble at home. And I am once divorced, a one-time loser. And so anyway, I have a beautiful daughter, and on March 18th of last year, I became an abuelo. Does anybody know what an abuelo was? You're a Spanish teacher.
Yeah.
What's an abuelo?
Grandfather.
And what's a nieto?
The granddaughter.
Grandson.
Grandson. Oh, okay.
Nieto.
Grandson.
Okay, and stay after class. Okay, and you know the trouble with the Spanish language? for a long time, I thought soy milk was I am milk. So, anyway,
The advice with the cobra when he came to you?
yeah, he says, they want a king cobra to bite me on the arm. Would you do that? I said, no, I wouldn't do it, but I'm not the macho man. You are. He said, you're right. You're not the macho man. I am. I'm going to do that cobra. He says, they say he's devenomized. I said, yeah, but I wouldn't trust Jake Roberts any more than I could throw him. You know, so evidently, Randy says, yeah, I'll do the thing with the cobra. But here's the deal. I want to make sure that cobra's devenomized, so let me see the cobra bite you first. So we put him on. He says, I didn't see it too good. Let me see it again. So the cobra bit Jake Roberts just to prove, you know. So then he got wrapped in the ropes, and the rest is, how many saw that? And you can look it up if you haven't, you know, it's in YouTube. It's got a lot of hits. And Randy said it was excruciating pain when the snake was like, "Argh." And sorry.
Better you than a snake, so that's.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even have long nails. So Randy got 103 fever and the snake died. How's that? Or so I've been told.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, it was definitely a sight to see, a loss of innocence that night for me, seeing a man getting bitten by a cobra on live TV. But you guys have any other questions too? We'll go to Steve and then Phil.
Lanny, what's your favorite moment in your career and your favorite moment in your brother's career?
My favorite moment in my career is that there's only one man smart enough to put Hulk Hogan down. The genius has a devastating plan. You're looking at the future World Wrestling Federation, who appeals to the modern thinking fan. When I emerge victorious with gold around my waist, I shall be the most splendiferous of all. Don't tell me Hulk is 6'8" and I'm just 6'2". Between the ears, I'm over 10 feet tall. He wants to wrap his 24-inch pythons around my neck and give his famous, "What you gonna do?" By the power of the genius and the world's smartest man, I'll rely on my incredible IQ. And then I go out there and defeat Hulk Hogan on NBC. Now, when I'm thinking about all the good and bad in my career, why not just think of that match? You see what I mean? It's like Groundhog Day. Let's relive that over and over and over in the little theater in my mind. Thank you.
And also, is your favorite memory maybe of just your brothers?
The best memory of my brother's career, I would have to say, is his match with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And it also ruined his life because no matter how hard he tried, and he tried very hard, he could never surpass that match in his mind. And maybe you say, oh, I don't know about that. I saw a great match between this guy and that. No, he had a chip on his shoulder and maybe another one here that he wanted to prove he was a great athlete. And you can only prove that with another great athlete. And is Ricky Steamboat not a great athlete? Oh my God. But then, after Elizabeth left him, now he's got the microphone, he's working for WWE, and they're having Raw and everything. And he's noticing that Shawn Michaels is emerging as a great talent. And he says, he made a big proposal to the WWE that he would work a program with Shawn Michaels for 2 years, ending at WrestleMania, where Shawn Michaels puts his hair on the line against the Macho Man losing his career. And he would have the final match of his career against Shawn Michaels that's better than the Ricky Steamboat match. That was his goal. And then he would leave to the announcer's table after having not just one, but the two greatest matches of anybody's career. And Pat Patterson said, well, we're having a youth movement, and the best thing you can do is stay on the microphone. So,
We all know who to blame now.
well, you know, the thing is, I don't know that that happened. I heard that that happened. I wasn't at the meeting. And I don't know things. I just hear things, right? I wasn't there. I cannot testify. Besides, have I ever lied? Sure, I've lied. Everybody lies, you know? How do I look today, honey? Oh, fantastic. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever. You know, it's cruel to be too honest, isn't it? It's like, isn't that jacket cramp your style with the ladies, you know? You know, it's like, who wants to hear that?
Yep.
So let me just say, I cannot prove what Pat did or didn't do because he's in total denial. And, you know, he's gonna be dead soon, just not soon enough, but you know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say is, with all the love in my heart, if you don't believe me, that's okay. But how about what I can prove? How many people saw the DVD Randy Macho Man Savage put out by the WWE where my mom was in it? How many people saw it? You saw that. Watch it again for the first time. Pat Patterson had nothing good to say about my father and nothing good to say about my brother. Look at this. Nothing good to say about my father, nothing good to say about my brother. Okay? Watch it again for the first time. Even when he starts to say something nice, he then turns into damning them with faint praise. These men are deceased. Don't speak ill of the dead. I couldn't believe what I heard out of his mouth. You know what? Let me give you some of the same courtesy that you have given my family. Pat, your excuses are weak, okay? Watch the DVD again yourself. Your animosity is showing. And look at it this way. Randy was gonna do something unselfish for Shawn Michaels. He was gonna lose in the middle of the ring in WrestleMania. Compare that to the Montreal Screwjob, where Brett didn't want to lose. You see what I mean? And they had to oosgray him. And you know, am I right?
I hear you. Yep, you're right.
When somebody, you know, when somebody doesn't want to lose, what are they going to do?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to trick you into losing. So Randy was doing what was right unselfishly for business, and they wouldn't let him. So that, I don't want to get angry.
No, hey, that was good. That's what we want to hear. That's what we're
Please watch that DVD. And if you don't have the DVD, go on YouTube. It's there.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay.
Everything's there.
You don't have to pay money. You know, I'm just saying. I'm not trying to. I probably get a 1/10 of a penny every time somebody buys that. So it's okay. Save the 1/10 of a penny. Look at it on YouTube. I'm right.
There you go. Phil, I know you had a question.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about your interest in poetry, how it started, and how you ultimately incorporated it into your persona, and while you were in that persona, how often you had to be writing and producing poetry.
Okay, thank you for the question. What got me interested in poetry? I had a crush on my 5th grade teacher. I'm not going to tell you her name, but she was wonderful, and we're still friends. I'm friends with her grandchildren, her children, her husband, and who I call the Lucky Bastardo. And she was just a strange teacher who thought she could make something special out of the students. And she says, Lanny, the paper you wrote was just wonderful. You could be a writer. Ego said, and I think it's Casey and the Sunshine Boys. Baby, you ain't seen nothing yet. Here's something you never will forget. Is this the way I gain praise? She discovered me as a writer, so I became one. Self-fulfilling prophecy. And then I was lucky that in Nashville, I was doing my poetry as a gimmick in the small territory, working for Nick Goulas, which is something I didn't want to do in my life, but I did well. And there's big fish, small pond. And then a man came up to me, or God put somebody in my life, a strange-looking, bald-headed man who said, I've got some people with me, and you're our favorite wrestler. We'd like to take you out to eat afterwards. And I said, yeah. It sounds like he's going to pick up the bill. Why not? And then he told me something that made me go, what? I said, you are Shel Silverstein? did you write The Giving Tree? He said, yes, but I got a feeling I'm gonna like you better than before you knew who I was than now. You know, and I said, I love that book. How many people have read The Giving Tree? One person only? Okay, 2, 3, okay, we got some peeps.
Oh, so in the back too?
Hey, the people over there, yes. The Giving Tree. Let me tell you what, go on YouTube, look up The Giving Tree. And the whole thing, he did the cartoons and the narration and the, I don't know if he did the narration, but he wrote words and cartoons, just like Dr. Seuss. He did his own drawings and he made his own 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. So, and then I met him again in my life, and he inspired me to be an author, to write poetry, to use poetry in my wrestling. And, you know, it's not good enough to be good, you gotta be unique. I would rather be unique than good. Because when you're unique, you know, it's like you stand out.
Yep.
So I did the poetry, you know, and then it was good guy poetry, and then when I became a villain, the first night was in Boston. They were gonna fire me, and I said, listen, we have too many baby faces, we need heels. Which means there's too many good guys, we need bad guys. So I said, why don't you make me a heel? And Strongbow says, you can't be a heel, you're too good looking. And I said, well, you're a baby face and you're the ugliest man I've ever met. Fake Indian. His name is Joe Scarpa. Scarpa means shoe in Italian. Io sono molto contento di essere qui. What do you think? I didn't listen to No No and Nana? You know, I know, I got enough Italian to get my face slapped to any country. So anyway, where was I?
Turn heel.
Okay, turn heel. I said, I can turn heel tonight if you want. Vince says, well, I'd like to see you try. So I said, well, I brought my Frisbees out, and everybody wants a Frisbee and everything, and I had a sneer on my face, and I said, my name is Lanny Poffo. I always know what's up. The Bruins haven't got a chance to win the Stanley Cup. The people went, oh. I said, the Red Sox haven't won in years. I hope they never do. The Celtics are a travesty. The Patriots are too. Fan jumps in the ring, never give a sucker an even break. I cleaned his clock. And I kept reading. Boss is watching, calm down. Third verse. There was no third verse. Another fan jumped into the ring. This time the police came. And this time they called the match off. I started a mini riot. And I came back so proud of myself. And Vince said, well, it seems like you're not as good looking as we thought. Have you thought of a gimmick? And I said, yes. How do you like Boy Genius? Because he's the kid in the class that says, oh, Mr. Carter, oh, you know, like, you know. And he says, I'll tell you what, we're going to do 6 vignettes, we'll call you the Genius Lanny Poffo. Then after 6 weeks, we'll cut the name Lanny Poffo and you're just the genius. How's that? I said, yes, sir. Would you mind if I wore a cap and gown because I need the charisma? And he said, I think it's great. Yes, fantastic. So he says, grow my hair out, grow the beard, you know, give me some time off. And, you know, the rest is history. And I'll tell you something too. The 6 vignettes, I went, the first poem was, I am the genius, Lanny Poffo, a title self-proclaimed, yet who would dare to say I'm not appropriately named? And Howard Finkel jumped up and he says, Lanny, do it like this. I am the genius, Lanny Poffo, a title self-proclaimed, yet who would dare to say I'm not appropriately named? See the difference? I love Howard Finkel, and I decided to listen to him and learn from him. And even in this comic book, I tell the story of how Howard Finkel helped me find the genius character. See the difference? Otherwise, you're just some guy reading a poem. I am the genius, Lanny Poffo. You know, that sounds like some goofball. It's great, you know what I mean? So,
yeah,
he helped me.
Well, guys, our time is running short. We'll have time for maybe another question or two if anybody has one. Brian?
I wonder if you could talk a little bit about Randy and WCW. A lot of guys seem to just be kind of mailing it in, but Randy and Diamond Dallas Page were really the highlights of WCW. What did you think of working there?
Well, he hated. He loved Vince McMahon, but he told me many times that what he would have loved to have done on the way out is beat up Pat Patterson and Jay Strongbow on the same day. But instead of doing that, he took the high road, just left, and went to the WCW. But he wanted to prove that he was not an old man. And he really thought that Diamond Dallas Page was very charismatic. Do you think? Did you see there's something special about the guy? He's something great about Diamond Dallas Page. Randy saw that. And Randy wanted to wrestle him in a program where they were going to do outlandish things to one another. Using props, tables, ladders, chairs, and the whole bit. And Randy was out there trying to prove that he was still young. And that was what you never saw Randy give a half performance. He always went, not even a full performance, more than full. More entertainment than you could ask for.
Anybody else? Last question? Anybody? Okay. Well, guys, we did give out some tickets. I just want to let everybody know. Lanny Poffo's comic. If you go on Kickstarter, it's a weird link. You can't just give out the name of the link, but if you go on Kickstarter.com, search for the Genius Lanny Poffo, you could be able to get these comics. They're going to be on sale soon on the Genius.
GeniusLannyPoffo.com, and he's my web guy.
So there you go.
And he's the best.
So you'll be able to buy it if you don't win it. But I did hand out tickets. They're in my hat right now. I'm going to pick one if the person. I know there are a few people that probably left, but.
And by the way, the contest is rigged. I know who's going to win.
So fake.
All right, here, Lenny, I'll let you pick out one ticket, and then if they're not here, if they're not here, we'll pick another ticket.
Okay, it's 750-498. 750-498.
Anybody win the lottery in here? If not, we'll pick another one.
Here we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Cohen.
Are you Jewish?
Couldn't find it, of course.
I heard the word Cohen.
Cohen, you got it.
Would you like
My-
Lanny to sign this too, or do you just want?
My mother's parents are from Lithuania and Belarus, but they're both Jewish, and I was raised Catholic because my dad won that fight.
I'm from Russia.
Russia? Where in Russia?
Russia.
And Poland? Okay, where do I sign?
Yeah, do it.
To whom?
Just sign it, right, Randy? Just sign it, ready.
I do want to give a shout out to Darkside Records for having us here today, guys. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Me and Lane are going to hit the road in a few minutes, so we can't stick around too much longer. But guys, thank you for showing up today. We really appreciate it. We're going to post this video so you guys see it later on. But thank you, Lanny Poffo, once again.
I just want to say, yesterday was an enormous crowd. Today was a very small crowd. But I did my best for both crowds, okay? Because it's not about the size, it's how you use it.
Lanny, one last note. How about we end it on a poem maybe for everybody? Is there one poem they think everybody here would enjoy?
Yes, I didn't write this one, and I don't think plagiarism is a joke. But this is the poem that changed my life for the better. And I recite it every day of my life, and this is the way I try to live. And it was written by George Eliot, whose real name was Mary Ann Evans. And the reason she changed her name is because in the 19th century, a woman couldn't be taken seriously in literature, which is incredible because you don't write with anything but the pen and your heart and your funny bone and your brains. Nothing to do with gender at all. If you sit down at set of sun and count the acts that you have done, and counting find one self-denying deed or word that cheered the heart of him who heard, no act most small that help some soul at nothing cost, then count that day. No, I'm sorry. If you sit down at set of sun and count the acts that you have done, and counting find one self-denying deed or word that cheered the heart of him who heard, one glance most kind that fell like sunshine where it went, then you may count the day well spent. But if through all the livelong day you've cheered no heart by yea or nay, if through it all you've nothing done that you can trace that brought the sunshine to one face, no act most small that helped some soul and nothing cost, then count that day as worse than lost. I'm going to be in Hornell, New York on St. Patrick's Day. I'm going to lead the parade and do a few things for the veterans. And whether it's a big crowd or a small crowd, I'm going to do my best, just like I did today. Thank you.
Thank you, Lanny. That's it for us. Thank you so much for coming out today, guys.